Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Shaynels 3 Cents. I'm your host, Shaynel Caldwell, the founder and executive director of Our Blended Families. And again, I say welcome to Shaynels 3 Cents. I want to thank you so much for coming out to join me today. I'm looking forward to the awesome guests that we have coming up on the panel shortly. But before then, as you know, I need to rant into my 3 cents for the week. I'm very excited about the most recent news that we've heard regarding international news, that the country of New Zealand has decided that they have banned all types of assault weapons. This is extremely fascinating news because it is one of a number of countries that have done so in the immediate aftermath of gun violence. Not only did they have the incident involving the mosque last week, but they also had a similar incident on a tram where they also had lives lost due to an extremist carrying a gun in their country. And so instead of the usual, what we do as Americans, we send our thoughts and prayers. I'm sure they got some of that. But they also decided that they weren't going to concede to the lobbyists. They weren't going to concede to other politicians and or some of the political affectations. But they decided that the prime minister, she was going to make the laws change. And it wasn't just her. She also had the support of the other politicians in the country. That's something that we should do here in America. But unfortunately, it's not feasible because as we know, a lot of our politicians in office are good friends with the NRA, and of course their money's in their pockets. So while we've had an immeasurable number of gun deaths, including this year in 2019, but in the past 5 years, we've seen such a rise in those numbers that it's really shocking that the U.S. hasn't done anything else. We haven't passed any decent laws that have combat those situations that arise. So again, I want to say hats off to the country of New Zealand for making some common sense gun legislation in the aftermath of such horrific incidents involving their people, and also recognizing that they understand who they're responsible for. They understand who they're accountable to, and it's citizens, making sure that they're safe. So hopefully those of us in America, we can also get on that train. My second rant is surrounding all things women related, but it's not necessarily women related because it also affects men. We recognized this week that the great state of Mississippi decided that they were going to be the first state in the United States of America to take that walk against pushing Roe versus Wade back. Mississippi has decided in a new state law that will be taking effect soon that any woman that has detected the heartbeat of her fetus at 6 weeks of pregnancy is no longer eligible for an abortion option. Now, for those of you that may not know, people in the medical field can attest to this, and they have. You typically find out that you're pregnant at 6 weeks when you detect a heartbeat. So it really puts women in a very bad situation. It also puts the men that have walked that walk with them, whether there be a boyfriend, a husband, someone that they're in a casual relationship with, it puts an enormous strain on that relationship because, again, they have now opted to raise a child. It's even more disturbing because they have a large number of doctors, they have a large number of people in the medical field, as well as regular Planned Parenthood supporters and other reproductive rights groups that say that's something that we need to look a little more closely at. Unfortunately, there are also 6 other states that have immediately pushed forward legislation to do the same. My primary concern with that, aside from the fact that from medically speaking, sounds a little suspect, but from a conservative point of view, with the recent appointees of 2 conservative justices from our president, it doesn't really make any sense, and I contend that it's actually a conservative motion for child abuse and abandonment. How, you might ask? How is it that these conservatives allow all these people that say, oh, I don't believe in abortion, and I think that's great. If you don't believe in abortion, don't have one. Real simple. But for people that are telling others that find themselves in this situation that they do not have the option to have an abortion, you are actually putting those people in jeopardy. You're basically condoning child abuse. You're basically condoning child abandonment. And you're also putting those people in situations where they really have no economic point of return from. Once these children are born, and numerous studies have been done, and we're actually going to try to post some of that information up on our website because this will be a discussion that we'll be getting into in the future as well. The number one reason why women opt for abortions, and I believe the stats from the National Institute of Health from 2015 stated the number one reason was lack of finances. The number one reason that women mostly decide that they cannot raise children and they make the decision to have an abortion when that child is a fetus is because they don't have the money, they do not have the economic support to raise that child. And so conservatives who are not tied to those families, conservatives that have not listened to any of the arguments against such, have decided that no, you will have this child, but we're not going to help you raise the child. We're not going to give you any financial support. And we're also not going to make sure that the schools are properly equipped to educate your child. We're not going to make sure that you have enough money, enough household income, enough opportunities to purchase housing in a decent neighborhood to raise your child. We're also going to check, particularly in the instance of our wonderful area of Flint, Michigan, you're not going to make sure that these kids have healthy drinking water and that they're able to grow up in a healthy environment. So I think it's really hypocritical that conservatives have opted to do this. So on the one hand, we're doing the right to life and we certainly want everyone to live, which I understand that. But you also have to understand, if you're going to fight for the rights of a child that is in the womb, you need to continue to do so. From the time that that child is born, making sure that the mother has adequate resources with regards to medical care, with making sure that the mother has the same to make sure that she has education so that she can see, what are my options towards birth control? What are my options towards getting information about STDs? What are my options towards getting information about where we can live and how I can recover from possible difficult pregnancies? We're simply not doing that. So to that, I say, conservatives, I'm going to need y'all to have a seat. And for those of you that think that this is something that we need to have another conversation on, I invite you to join me. Check me out on our Facebook page. Check us out on Our Blended Families at www.obf4u.org. But this conversation needs to be had. Very excited about the progress that Planned Parenthood is making and their newly elected president, who's also a physician who actually graduated from college. I think she was 14 years old. But there's so many medical strides that we need to look into. The lack of education that the United States is not providing for men and women with regards to contraceptive and safe methods of birth control. We have to do a better job before we do this, folks. So again, my rant, and we'll talk about something a little bit later. But we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have my wonderful first guest, Mr. Frank Malone, the president and the CEO of the 100fathers.com. And we'll also have another one of his companions. I believe his vice president, David Smith, is going to join us as well. But again, we'll see you right back after this break.
2018, I personally helped several people reclaim their healthy lives with a ketogenic lifestyle. Together with our team at Wakaya Perfection, we have helped over 4,000 people struggling with weight loss, burn off unwanted fat naturally, control hypertension, type 2 diabetes, and high cholesterol with our Beulah Fit Keto Fuel Shake and high-impact ginger and turmeric. Contact me for yours. Buttons about that ketolife.mywakaya.com. That's BUTTONSBOUTTATEITOLIFE.MYWAKAYA.com or call 202-875-3926.
This is a keto-friendly diet, and weight loss expectation is approximately 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results can and will vary.
Business owners looking for a place to advertise your business and promote your products and services? VoxWave is the right place. We have over 10,000 views a day and 70,000 listeners a month. For more information, contact Reg Gaskins at 240-832-4455.
VoxWave now features a streaming radio media player on our website's front page, where local artists can get their music played 24/7. For more information on getting your music in rotation or to perform live at our studio, contact Reg Gaskins at 240-832-4455.
Android users, the VoxWave app is now available in the Google Play Store. Download the app today on your Android device to listen in and view programs.
DJ Rick Entertainment.
DJ Rick Entertainment, hottest DJ in the DMV area, CEO of Step Your Game Up and the Youth Project Show, the DJ on the Heartbeat Conga Hour, and sound engineer for a variety of bands. DJ Rick Entertainment is your #1 company for all your stage and sound event needs. Call 202-390-1151. That's 202-390-1151.
DJ Rick Entertainment.
back. Thank you all again for tuning in. We appreciate you being patient with us during this break. For those of you on YouTube, you're actually seeing the flyer for the Prince George's County event that's going on tomorrow, the Momentum Conference, Men Making Our Relationships Excellent. It's going to be held tomorrow, which is Saturday, March 23rd. And that location is at the Camelot at Martin's. And that's on Central Avenue in Upper Marlboro. And we're also going to have that information posted on our website so that you can check it out. And hopefully you all will be able to attend. It's an awesome event that they're doing annually, so you certainly want to make sure that you're able to come out if you are able to. All right. So now that you can see us, I want to congratulate Mr. Franklin Malone for welcoming us today and being able to come out with us. I know that you're speaking at the Momentum Conference tomorrow so that you can tell folks about your organization. And I understand your vice president, the awesome David W. Smith Sr., is also here with us. So again, if you gentlemen could share with our audience a little bit of background about yourself, and we'll start with Frank, and tell us how you came and got into the fatherhood movement.
Well, first of all, I would have to do honor to such a powerful sister as you, who's been a part of the fatherhood movement and blending families. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't because your leadership has been instrumental in helping fathers and families throughout the DMV. So the 100 Fathers gives honor to you because you're a bad sister, and we love you.
Look, well, I thank you, and I appreciate you welcoming me into the fold once we got OB off the ground. So looking forward to having numerous more partnerships with you.
Thank you. So the Momentum Conference is our move into the DMV with fatherhood, giving accountability to men to take part in the domestic violence movement. It's been chiefly a female-led movement. But the balance of bringing fathers and men in is the apex of the new wave of understanding that can change how women and men can work together under these times of difficulty.
Absolutely.
And so we're bringing accountability of men, holding men accountable, and also the 100 Fathers, which we got into this movement 9 years ago before it was popular. We came because there needs to be a line of competency and skill to the fatherhood movement. So we bring the certified master fatherhood trainer, the certified trainer, and the rites of passage, which we believe is more than a young man could need to be a man. And so we want to teach young men to be men, dads to be better dads, but we have a curriculum that is the second most powerful curriculum in the nation, and we're training the next generation of fatherhood leaders to do this work.
Okay. Well, let me try to pull this information out of you really quickly. What qualifies you to lead the 100 Fathers? What's your background in working with fathers and working with the community? Well,
I'm a 4-time commissioner, served in Washington, D.C. and Virginia. I'm a drug czar. And the way I got into the movement...
Rayful Edmonds, drug czar?
No, a drug czar to help to get the drugs off the street, not put them back on the street. But I got called to the city of Alexandria after we worked with Marion Barry in D.C. They called me to Alexandria to do the same thing, to organize the civic, community, and church leaders on how to rid themselves of the pest of drug abuse and all the peripheral things that come with it. And so we came over there, but we noticed that the kids in the neighborhood didn't have fathers. So they put me at the Family Resource Learning Center, and we noticed that the kids gravitated to the fathers that were with me. Then they took the standard of learning test, and because of our encouragement and the love that we all shared for one another, they scored the highest of any of the kids in the city. So then we started getting funding from McDonald's and Harris Teeter's. The governor's office took notice. But it was fatherhood, the single most important thing that helped to blend that community. Men standing up for what that community needed. And so from there, I came over from the Fenty administration, Worked with a guy named Tony Duggar, who worked with your guy, Valeria Johnson. And from there, he did the 100 Fathers Conference. I worked with him on that, and I kept the name. Tony and I traveled around the nation as consultants, but we were both given our marching orders by Dr. Jeffrey Johnson, who helped me to become a certified master trainer and let me take over this area. And so now the 100 Fathers has taken over the community nationally and bringing that certification, which once you train somebody, once you get them knowledge, what did Frederick Douglass said, knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave. That's right. And so fathers can supersede and overcome with the information, knowledge, and skills that we give them. So we're looking to train the next generation of fatherhood leaders around the region, around the DMV, and around the nation. Okay. That's our story, and we're sticking to it.
Yeah, well, for those of you that will hopefully have an opportunity to work with Frank, when you get an email from Frank, the content may be minor or it may be a lengthy email, but I'm always impressed by his signature line because he lists his numerous accolades on his signature line. So again, he's definitely a gentleman that's well qualified to not only be a community advocate, but also a fatherhood advocate. And I see you've got this gentleman on the side. David, can you tell our viewers a little bit about your background and some of the...
First of all, thank you, Shaynel. It's great to be here with you and Mr. Malone. My name is David W. Smith Sr., as you mentioned earlier. I am an advocate, a warrior advocate, and a community leader. This gentleman right here is my mentor and my good friend, and we have been working on this fatherhood initiative. And what brought us together was a great man by the name of Mr. David L. Levy, who as many know, I wear many hats. I am a fatherhood advocate, but I'm also a child advocate, and that's how I connected with Shaynel, was through shared parenting, blended families, because as much as the parents are important, we have to make sure that they're prepared, they're trained, they're educated, and that our children are put forth in their best interests and making sure that the parents are there. And so my journey here is just about the kids, but also about fatherhood. Fathers are usually the ones that get the short end of the stick when it comes to a lot of times when it's custody or separation and divorce. And so children, their best interest a lot of times doesn't get looked after. And so the fathers usually get displaced, and then those children get on a path that leads to a criminal justice system. And so my focus, as well as the education component, is the legislation and policy component. And so I've worked in our school system, parent engagement, I've done that, and and just in the community in general. But the parent piece is so important. That's what brought me and Shaynel together, and that's why I appreciate you and glad to be on your show and put these three people at the table and make something happen. Awesome.
Okay, so the Momentum Conference, can you all tell us a little bit about what folks can expect to attend? Is it something that only men should attend, since it's talking about all these things that can help progress men and make their relationships great?
I'm glad you asked that question because I got an email. We worked with Dr. Stephanie Myers. They were the Black Women for Obama. They're now our partners. They're Black Women for Positive Change. And we're working side by side on some issues with Congress on de-escalation and violence and the whole 9 yards. Because as I learned from Malcolm X's daughter, the Black Power movement is the man and the woman working together to help those families. And so we got to have our sisters involved. So to answer your question, yes, we want women to come. We want to have that conversation. We want to share their ideas. In our power session, we have Sister Akila Clark, who's going to speak on the realness of domestic violence and what needs to be done. But we're also going to do some of our trademark values voting and do some things with the audience and have the audience to teach us in the end what it is needs to be done. So yes, we want women there, but I found out we're sold out.
Yeah, so we reached our mark. We are sold out. I've been working with Miss Jackie Roan with the Department of Family Service for Prince George's County that created Momentum. And Momentum, like Frank said, started out as a domestic violence for men to help them if they were abusers or being abused. And now we've made it more wide stream for addressing healthy relationships, fatherhood, domestic violence, and a couple other things within there. And so there will be 5 workshops that day, and one they will have a women's workshop that women can attend. So really, when you have the conversation, you know, we have to make sure that men and women are at the table so that we can have their input, plus they can hear some of our experience and concerns of what's going on. And Momentum, you know, it's going to be a great day tomorrow. We got a guest speaker. Brian Heat is a powerful motivator and speaker.
And he's the keynote, correct?
He's the keynote speaker. And so, I mean, you know, our goal was 500, and if it's sold out, that's what we're looking to have. And
that's awesome. That's awesome. See, you guys missed out, but hopefully you saw the.
But we're not turning anybody away.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think we're turning anybody away.
They just might miss the awesome food that Miss Jackie had.
Yeah, that Miss Jackie had. Yeah.
I want to say about Brian Heat. He is a fire bringer to the hearts of young men. He's also an Omega, and I'm a member of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity. But in our organization, we have the Kappas, the Alphas, the Sigmas, the Iotas, the Deltas, and the AKAs, because this fight we fight, we have to be united.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, but I also wanted to say that when we talk about fatherhood, what are we talking about? You know, like sometimes they say, oh, we're mentoring,
Baby
we're
daddies?
mentoring. We're talking about men who are affirming, authentic, and available. That is the father we're trying to build, the one that we're trying to feature, and the one that we are training. If he can't have love, nothing's going to happen. If he can't be available, he can't be a father. But if you can't be real, then what's the business in trying to play the game? So we want authentic men to stand up and be in the lives of their children and families and give them that love. And so this is what it's all about. And we're going to teach in our power session that father absence is the reason for emotional problems, violence, it's the reason for academic failure, it's the reason for so many things that are wrong. Mama, you can do the best you can do, and you do a good job, but you can only be a good mother. To be a father, you got to have a man in there doing the positive things so that they can see you and be you. And so we bring that message. Nothing to put down the women. Women have done a great job with our children. But when a young man like my young man, he's 20 years old now, he's looking eye to eye with mom. So when mom tells him to do something he doesn't want to do, he's more likely, if I'm not there, not to do it. However, I have some influence on that and can change all that around. So the balance of the father and the mother, the man and the woman working together is the balance our young men need to be somebody and be somebody great.
Awesome, awesome. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break to regroup, and when we come back, we're going to go into a bit more details about some of the work that the 100 Fathers have done in the past, and we're also going to get into a nice little conversation about how is it that we can bring men and women together to have these conversations to make sure that the fathers are present and available in their child's life, even if the relationships may be broken between mom and dad. So again, if you guys bear with us, give us a short break, and we'll see you back. we are back. Again, we're here with Franklin Malone from the 100 Fathers and also David W. Smith Sr., who's also with the 100 Fathers. And a little bit later, he's also going to tell us about another organization that he leads. But before we go into that, before we went to the break, we talked a little bit about making sure that fathers are available in their child's lives, because we do know that it's been documented, in numerous studies with the federal government, and not only here in the United States, but across the planet. So we look at different family dynamics in other countries, and we also look at the roles and responsibilities of both mom and dad. And there are trends that show that in the United States, there's such a huge divide when it comes to allowing fathers to be in their child's life when the mom and the dad are not married. So how is it that your organization combats that, the strain on a relationship to where a dad possibly is having some difficulty gaining access to his kids via the family law courts, or they may be having a dispute with the mother, or they may not have relations with the extended family. But what do you recommend for fathers to gain access to their children so that they can have a positive effect on them?
Let me take this to another level. You had intimated when David was speaking on our relationship and how we got here. I want you to know our organization has been honored in the temple with the Jewish church. We've been honored by the Muslims. As a matter of fact, Frank Muhammad was just at our meeting last week. And we also been honored in several churches in this area. So on that level, we also are one of the only organizations that's been asked by the United States Congress to present on fatherhood. We presented the barriers and solutions to the 21st century father. Mm-hmm. And so I want to lay out that backdrop for who we are and what we do. We didn't just invent this. Right. And it says in Proverbs, it says, and a father is the glory of his children. In other words, he's the divine presence in the lives of his wife, his children, and his family. Now, you went back to how do we help fathers? We help fathers by having the right information and resources. Mm-hmm. One of our resources that I want to share right now is a national resource we have called Parent Help. And we work with Donna Linder. We can help anybody in the United States that has a phone. She has an organization called Parent Help, 1-800-716-3468. And I call it every now and then just to make sure it's working. And they have social workers that will find out where you live, get you help, and stick with you until you get some resources. More than that, we work with the U.S. Attorney's Office. We're the ones that started the fathering court with Judge Milton, Burnett, and Epps. The fathering court helps fathers who are having visitation problems, child support problems, and work with them to get them a job and get them back with their family. As well, we just recently formed an alliance in Prince George's County, not only working with the Fatherhood Forum, the DMV Fatherhood Coalition, but we just formed an alliance with Mene Minhaya and My Brother's Keeper. And we're getting ready to do something that hasn't been done here. We're doing a peer leadership training, which will have resources. With the father and the mother need help, we'll make the referrals. Sometimes you can't do all of the work yourself, but the real professional knows that you got to refer that back. Like I was talking to an evangelist earlier today. She said, when you get the stuff from the manufacturer, you have to take it back to the manufacturer. She was talking about God. She said, you got to take that back to where it came from. And so when something goes wrong, you have to go back to the place where it can be reassembled right. And so we have attorneys. We have used a lot of pro bono attorneys. David has been great in getting resources for us. He's called the Connector. But we have
my nickname for David is Link.
Yeah, okay, Connector, Link, whatever.
So absolutely.
But he's been great. We got connected by David Levy, who started the visitation in Virginia and in Maryland, where kids didn't have anywhere to go to see their father, he would furnish a place. So that's our connection. But just to go back to where the help comes from, whenever somebody calls us at the 100 Fathers, we do our best to make a succinct referral to get a person some help. Absolutely. And I get calls all day, all night, and try to make sure that we refer them to one of our trusted allies that can make a difference.
Awesome. David, is there anything you'd like to add on that?
And Frank is right. I mean, really, we're just resources, but we do have the education and the training. And a lot of times when individuals are coming to you for assistance, they have no clue what they're going through. They're emotionally right now making decisions versus making realistic decisions. And especially when you know your child is in the being jeopardized or being taken away from you. So we try to give them guidance and support, because I'm not an attorney, I'm an advocate, so I think my power is a little more sometimes, because attorneys don't seem to look at what's best for the situation. So I try to be that bridge winner to bring the attorneys or the other resources, whether it's co-parenting like Shaynel and then Alexis, Dobbin, to try to have them be the person that can help fix the situation before they have to go to court and handle this, because once you get in there, it's a whole nother ball game. So then when it does get to the court side, we play the advocate to come in there to help guide the court to make the best decision, because a lot of times they don't know either.
No, they don't.
So and that what he said about Mr. Levy. Mr. Levy was a part of the Children's Rights Council, which was a national organization. And then when he retired from that, him and I created the Children's Rights Fund. And he used to house up supervised visitation centers. And what they were is they were access centers where you could bring your children so you wouldn't have to worry about going to somebody's house and transferring and dealing with all the conflict and everything. And so it acted as a hub to help, and it had resources and support, and it helped to bring a little bit of the dysfunction, and so I think we need more of that.
Putting kids into dangerous
Putting the kids in a dangerous environment. And you had like somebody that could oversee to make sure that there wasn't, taking this child and doing something or brainwashing, even though that happened maybe afterwards.
Before or after.
Before or after. But it at least helped as a safe haven, and I think we need more of those transitional centers with added resources, added education, and training. But, I mean, it all starts, like Frank said, we can give you as much training and education, but if we don't pass these laws and these legislation and policies, that stuff does not get implemented correctly.
Let's talk about that.
And we'll let her shift the show when it's...
Well, actually, that was going to be the segue into, how do you impart change? Because oftentimes we do get the calls and the emails from people that say, hey, this is going on in my family. How is it that I can figure out a better way to see my kid? How is it that I can change my child support? Because right now I'm paying X amount of dollars, but I'm in jeopardy of losing my job. Or I need to get my driver's license back because I'm in arrears. So looking at the system, which I think all of us on the panel will agree that there are some definite flaws in our family court system with regards to child support and custody. How is it that you move that forward? Who do you have? Who have you been working with in the state of Maryland and, of course, D.C. that see the same, that see that these things need to be reformed? We need to possibly revise the way we set up custody arrangements. We need to look at the laws to make sure that we have more shared parenting. How is it that we do that, and who are people that you connect with to do so?
You want to go?
I want to say this. We've been with the governor. We passed legislation in Maryland to the child support, the Commission for making decisions on shared parenting. We passed legislation with the county council for the Commission for Fathers, Men, and Boys. We have to pass legislation in Virginia and in D.C. So it's a process by which you have to have information, education, and destination, but you have to have trained people that are committed to this work, that have the knowledge and skills. We have Judge Arthur Burnett working with us. We have Representative Darrell Barnes, Nick Charles. We have the Also Brooks family working with us, Mel Franklin, Mr. Dula. We have a cadre of people that we can go to move this agenda, and that's what it takes.
And
Go ahead.
And like Frank said, you know, it starts with having those experts at the table when it comes to legislation, because sometimes people don't always have your best interests, or legislators, unfortunately, are not skilled or crafting that decision. They can put a bill in and not even know what mental health is about. They just heard it from somebody else and said, this sounds good. So you got to make sure you have experienced and educated legislators pushing initiatives and their support behind them, because if not, we did pass a child custody decision-making commission, Mr. Levy and I and a few others, and delegate at the time, Delegate Joe Carter was a part of that implementation of the commission. But when it came time to form the commission didn't have the advocates on the strong side of supporting it versus the opposition. And so making sure people at the table, yes, you got to have your opposition, you got to have your supporters, but you got to make sure that there's a balance, because if not, one is going to take over the other. And that's kind of what happened with the commission, because we redefined the language because we thought custody and visitation was derogatory term to use. So we changed it to legal decision making and parenting time. And parenting time is really focused on the most important part when you're talking about custody and visitation, because the time, you don't get that back once it's lost. And a lot of times when we're looking at child support, they're not looking at the time that you're spending with your kid. They're just like, how much are you going to pay to take care of this kid? And it is important to take care of your child, but it's also important to spend time with your kids. As I've always said, time spent with your child is more important than money spent with no time. And so as we advocate with these legislators and educate them, you know, Senator Joe Carter, it's a simple bill this year, and it makes perfect sense. It's called Child Support Custody Visitation Decision Making. It's a child support bill. And what happens is, if a party is going to the Office of the Child Support, they have to refer you over to the courts to at least make a temporary custody decision as well as a child support decision. Instead of saying,
so what you're saying is they're not only going to talk about the money that's needed,
right,
but they're also
going to talk about
your availability to be a parent.
Yes, okay. Because what is needed is, if you have a parent running down here to child support and he says, you know what, I understand I got to pay, but how do I see my kid? Sorry, sir, or we'll say sir. I mean, there's sometimes when it's a ma'am, you know, but I try to be, but sorry, sir, we don't help you here. And
this is just where we get your money.
What do I do? What? I'm sorry. You know what? You're going to have to figure that out. So what we're trying to create is just like a pathway to say, hey, well, you know what? We understand you're here to pay for your kid and you want to see your kid. This is going to go over to the courts. The courts are going to make a temporary order on both choices, and then you start the process of going through how to get custody and support for your child. Because, I mean, the laws are so outdated that Maryland is so far behind.
Yes, it is.
You know, that I don't understand, you know, how they sit up there in these 90-day sessions. And this is a...
Okay, I may have to interject before you run down that rabbit hole, because I know we're going to do the children's rights rabbit hole on that later. But it's such an important topic. But again, I see how the two fuse. If you work on how to make fathers not only more accountable, but to make them more available to have access to their kids and to provide support for their kids.
Right.
It's the same thing on the other side. How do we also build those fathers up so that they can be more productive fathers, so that they can be more involved in the community? I also understand that you all work with other organizations and businesses to make sure that those gentlemen that are coming out of the criminal justice system, the reentry gentlemen, know that they have access to their fathers, that they can work with people to make sure that they can see their children and also pick up gainful and meaningful employment. So it looks like between the two of you, look, we're definitely covering the ground to make sure that we can reposition, the men in our community to be more positive contributors.
A man is not a visitor. If you're a father, you are not a visitor.
To your
and
child.
So,
That's
and
right.
we're advocating for shared parenting. If you and I don't get along, we have kids, we start out 50-50, not 70-30. Okay, you know that song by
Teddy.
This ain't no 70-30 relationship, baby.
That's
This is 50-50. Now, if I did something to take my 50 down, take my 50 down. But if I didn't, don't just take it away from me because I'm a man. So that's going to be our lifelong fight.
Absolutely.
To get, because how many states already have it?
Well, we got 5 states right now that are moving shared parenting legislation, and 2 of those states had already moved it 2 years ago. So they're already creating a show of measure, because 2 years ago they did something, and now they're making added changes, showing that
there's already about 30.
Yeah, there's about 39 states, close,
states that
that
have
have
it.
and they have some type of shared arrangement, language change. What we aim for is a rebuttable presumption, and that's a lot that gets kickback. But so I told them, I said, you can give us a rebuttable presumption when it comes to child support. So why can't we get a rebuttable presumption when it comes to time spent?
Right.
Because, like Frank said, parents should start up here and then you move the needle. Not be up here and then strip them down here and say, hey, now it's time to build yourself back up. And so I think we really have to focus on some of these new models and creating something new, like that will show, hey, let's do this and see where it goes and measure it, because that's what other states have done. And so it's just, it's time for a change. And I'll end on this note. And I told a couple folks, when you're looking at criminal justice reform, you have to look at family, because family, when that piece is broken, will send a child into the juvenile system, send a parent into the criminal justice system. It creates that pipeline. So if we're not talking about a family, juvenile, criminal justice system that has that family component in there, you are going to continue to have a problem with the criminal justice system.
That segues right into the power session that I'm going to do tomorrow. It's called Why Hurt People, and How Healed People Can Heal People. We haven't discussed reactionary masculinity syndrome yet. Why our young men walk around with their pants down. Why they disrespect our women. Why it's better to have 22s on your car than to have knowledge in your brain. Why you want to go around being a big daddy, but you never had a father to show you how to be a real man. And so that is the pipeline to prison. And we, as certified master trainers in fatherhood, are training men to disassemble that. I have a group at Ballou High School right now. There's a saying in the Bible said, can anything good come out of Nazareth? I want to ask you, can anything good come out of Ballou? I want you to know yes, yes, and yes. Some young men that are hungry and thirsting for righteous men to come in and show them what to do. And you have to have the courage, the patience, and the information. It's not just mentoring. What does it say in the Bible? Study to show thyself approved.
That's right.
So if you don't know nothing, you can't give nothing. When the car runs out of gas, you can't go any further. You got to walk in there with a full tank, and you got to be ready for what might happen. So we went over to Ballou and said, give us this school, because this is where you're having a lot of problems. And we took these young men. I hope some of them show up tomorrow. And I'm trying to tell you, they did a artwork called the Brotherhood. That's what they call themselves. Integrity, scholarship, self-discipline, self-respect, and leadership. And these are the ambassadors that we're creating for the next year.
Awesome.
And that's what we want to do with Prince George's County.
And real quick,
that's what fatherhood can do.
And as we talk a lot of times about the school-to-prison pipeline, which is definitely coming from the school system, doing parent engagement and working with parents and youth, there's also what I've tried to explain to them, a home-to-prison pipeline. Because when you break that home, like I said, that whole...
It's a gateway.
It's a gateway.
You open a gateway.
So, I mean, we have to focus. And like we always say, everything goes back to the home. If it's missing in the home, we have to figure out how do we fix it, how do we heal it, and then provide them with the help that they need. Because our children are suffering, and that is where the big piece on mental health comes into place. If you look at the leading cause of suicide, the divorce rate is up there for suicide of children as well as their parents.
Yes, it is. And then I was just looking at some statistics I'm going to reach tomorrow. 74% of all young people who have been mistreated in the family will mistreat someone else. So we have to break that cycle. But you can't just do it because you want to do it. You got to come and get trained, get the information that has been passed down to us to pass on to other men. We can't do enough of this work, but we can train the next generation of fatherhood leaders who can go up in the school and use some tools. I mean, we came in one workshop, we came in with some Monopoly money. We gave every young man in the room $300. Oh, we got money, we got money. Then we put a list up on the board. What kind of person would you like to buy? A smart guy? A guy that has manners? An athlete? Somebody that will tell you everything you want to, someone that respects their family? We went a nerd, and then they got the bond, and we had an auction. Oh, I'm a bid so and so. But at the end, we said, now what kind of person is it that's really the best one to be? And what kind did y'all spend your money on? Those are the kind of workshops that are devoid if you're just doing some mentoring. You got to go manhood, boyhood to manhood, rites of passage. And, somebody was pointing out to us, even the Jews, when you got that bar mitzvah, you've gone from a boy to a man. Same thing with our young men. So we're getting ready to do a crossover with the Nguzo Saba, where we're going to take them from being a boy into manhood. Come on, baby.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I want to say thank you both for coming on. As we're going to wrap up these last couple of minutes, Frank, do you mind leaving our viewers with maybe your top 3? I know you have a list that you're going to present tomorrow about the top 10 most important things to tell your son. Can you give our audience the top 3 things?
The top 3 is you came from greatness. When we start to teach, we start in our greatness before we built the castles and built the pyramids and developed the writing and taught the Italians how to bathe. That's who we come from. Okay. So you come from greatness.
I like
Number
that.
2, respect your woman. Respect the black woman. That is the key to everything. If you learn to respect women, you'll go a long way in being successful in life. And I think the last one is, for this area, is always protect and carry yourself with dignity. Because your first impression is your only impression. If I walk somewhere with my pants down, I'm already done. So we got to pull them up, heads up, grades up, pants up. Come on, get up.
All right. And tell our audience where they can find you in the 100 Fathers online.
We're at www.100fathers.org. Our number is 202-361-0761. We're looking to train the next generation of committed men. You can't play with this thing. Let me say this. It's 5 things I want to give you. Love, engagement, connection, enlightenment brings empowerment. But without love, you ain't got
none of these
nothing.
is possible. I think I saw that in the Bible too. David, any last words for our audience?
I just wanted to share something real quick, and I saw it last week, and it's a good friend of mine and a partner, Mr. BJ Page. He had a post that he did, and it said, some of our youth don't need mentors, they need parents. You know what? And that is so true, because a lot of times when the parents are missing, we try to put a mentor there to replace it. And a mentor can't replace a parent, you know, and that is why it's so important that these children have both their parents, even when their parents can't get along.
Right.
And so
parents and people to
leave
help
you on
develop
this
the parents.
leave you on this quote in mind. Just because two parents can't hold hands or get along doesn't mean that a child shouldn't be able to hold the hands of both parents. And that is a personal quote from my own experience. And so, as the best place to reach me is through the Children's Rights Fund, www.childrensrightsfund.org, or the 100 Fathers, because, you know, this is a family community issue that we have to figure out how to save and build up. And I appreciate you having me here. Finally made it.
Thank you. We started out together and we ended up together.
Look, we still together.
Right.
And you all can find, you can contact Frank's organization as well as David's separate organization on the OBF website, and make sure you search them out and look for them also on Facebook. They both have profiles on Facebook, and you can keep in touch with them as well as the other events that they're involved in and some of their additional upcoming speaking engagements. And with that, we want to say thank you so much for tuning in to this week's edition of Shaynels 3 Cents. We hope you like everything that you've heard today, but if not, at least you've heard it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We took this to a doctor.